Hello, patrons. I hope you're well. Welcome to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream, where today I thankfully welcome questions from the patrons and the patrons only. It is just gone past 4 UK time on Friday, January the 9th. I gave up Ask James streams on a Friday ages ago because it became boring with too many fucking repetitive FPL questions. I'm sure this one won't be. We are 8 days away from the Game Week 22 deadline, and it is a bit of a break. FA Cup weekend this weekend, obviously. FPL and non-FPL questions, live questions, whatever, all welcomed in the chat. I'll cover all the questions. This stream will end once I have got through them. So if you think, oh, I've asked multiple questions, listen, if you're in watching live, I thank you for it. You can ask as many questions as you want. Nothing particular from me to announce, so I'll get into them. David Bakradzi says, hi, James. Should one wait for a couple of fixtures or move from Foden to Enzo already? I'd wait at the moment. I think... for me, I'm probably going to go Cunha to Enzo. I've got Foden as well. And I'd said on the podcast today about, if you knew now Foden was going to start against Wolves, you'd keep him, wouldn't you, kind of? So I kind of want to monitor that because I know if he can recover the explosiveness that meant so many of us went there in the first place, you wouldn't actually want to get rid of him. Cunha feels an easier sell for me at this moment with City and Arsenal in the next two, and I know I'd rather have Bruno Fernandes sitting in there than Cunha. A little bit of concern that Cunha's going to end up in a wider position, actually, now that United have changed what they're doing with managers. With Enzo, for me, probably timing-wise is going to be right. Cunha to Enzo Fernandes, I think is okay. Morgan Rogers is an alternative for me, though. It's probably going to be 1 in 22, 1 in 24. So I just want to kind of decide which way round I do it. Going Enzo first probably feels right. Reason if I decide not to do it will come down to a concern about minutes. And I may feel that way this time next week. 24 is a better entry point, I think, with more information. Again, concern about rotation, about possible minutes, etc. But you could certainly make the case, the Chelsea run starts now. Brentford is still a decent fixture despite their placing in the league table. I'm sure Chelsea won't be happy looking at Brentford being above them in the table at the moment. I'm sure they'll want to fix that next week. So, if you want to go there, it's all right. Foden to Enzo with City playing Wolves in 23, though, I'm not sure I'd rush there. I think it's, again, see how you feel next week. As if Foden bizarrely started tomorrow against Exeter and then started midweek against Newcastle, I think the rest is coming somewhere, isn't it? And it probably wouldn't be Manchester United away, but it might be the home game against Wolves, possibly. So, I want to be decisive if I sell Foden, I think, and make sure that's the right move. But ultimately, I do also think that I'll probably move him on in 24 myself, which I don't like the idea of because I can see who they're playing in game week 24. But it would be the right entry point back to Bruno Fernandes, who would then play my team in 25 and may well get the armband, by the way, in that week when Haaland goes to Liverpool. So it's okay. I don't think you need to make the decision on that right now. Both those players obviously playing midweek next week. Uros Milicevic says, hi James, what are your future plans for Cole Palmer and Bruno Fernandes? What to do with Phil Foden? So Foden just covered. Cole Palmer I've got no plans for unless I see something that's like, oh my god, no plans. My feelings on it very much are very similar, as I said today, on Declan Rice versus Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka, very capable, great asset, wonderful footballer. Don't think he's worth 3-odd million more than Declan Rice. I don't think that Cole Palmer's worth 3-odd million more than Enzo Fernandes either. So no plans for Cole Palmer. There is a plan for Bruno Fernandes, as just said. Plan for me is back in game week 24 for Fulham at home. So take a little monitoring kind of assessment of the next couple against City and Arsenal. And also the FA Cup tie on Sunday. That's the only FA Cup game that I intend to watch this weekend other than my own team. If I catch something, it's background noise. But I need to watch Manchester United and Brighton on Sunday. So there's a few games to make a bit of an assessment, just in case you get to 24 and it's like, oh shit, it's not Fernandes. Oh, it was Cunha. Right, well, I'm already sitting there. Oh, Bumo's back. It feels like it should be Bumo. But I imagine, Bruno Fernandes game with 24. So as detailed on the midweek FPL dilemma, current thinking for me is Cunha to Enzo Fernandes this week. Could be Morgan Rogers instead. The other one to come in that week, and also Bruno Fernandes in 24 as well, and probably Chelsea defensive in 24 as well. So Trevor Chalobah. So I've got 2 free transfers going into 22. Intention would be to use 1, roll again 23, and I should be able to make 3 in game week 24, as I detailed in the midweek FPL dilemma. So Foden will probably end up going for me 24. I mean, Cunha probably is going to be 22 because of the fixtures. And cut Bruno Guimaraes 24 as well when Newcastle go to Liverpool. That's the current route that I'm looking at. Patrick Wolf says, hello, mate. Congrats on the 101. Should Harry Wilson owners now look at him as a long-term hold rather than a hop-on, hop-off type of asset? Has potential return in any fixture, it now seems. There's the alert that I said on the main podcast today about his contract situation. So I don't think you could view it as he's going to stay till the end of the season. My viewpoint when I got him in, I tell you truthfully, was very much that he was going in with Dewsbury Hall, and I would use the 2 of them as a week-to-week selection. And if I didn't like either of them, then obviously go with a back 4 or a back 5. That was the plan that I was looking at. Dewsbury Hall got injured. Harry Wilson hit some incredible form. I invested in him at 5.2. It feels like trying to force in another 4.5 now for me is probably not right. I have a selection headache every week. But it's also why I've stressed things like I can hide Thiago for some of his worst fixtures if I want, knowing that I will definitely want to go back to him in, say, game week 28. So, yeah, I'm still viewing him kind of as 8th attacker. I actually, as it stands, have him bust to be a substitute again against Leeds in 22. But I'll see how I feel as and when I come round to it and get there. I may well decide to start him, possibly even over Thiago, who goes to Chelsea. It's a possibility. And Leeds away is tougher than probably what it shows on FDRs. I'll be updating over the course of the next week. I'll be updating my ratings again, and Leeds is going to take a jump in terms of the rating of the difficulty of that. So I can use me if I want. I'll make that Leeds fixture tougher. Fulham going to sit right near towards the bottom of my ticker of the next 5. But what I would say is he's probably not in a line now. Go right, sell him and get him back. I'm also very aware, though, of their fixtures 29 to 31 heading into the blank. But I also don't think it's a certainty that he's still at Fulham in 3 weeks' time. He probably will be, but I don't think it's a certainty. Ura says, is Saka still a good pick? He doesn't play 90 every game anymore. He doesn't score many goals from open play. He might not take all/most penalties anymore, and he's expensive. Should we sell him? My opinion is yes. I don't think there's ever a good time to do it. I would only do it if it meant a path to different Arsenal player. So whether it's moving towards double defence or you want to drop that down to Declan Rice, either fine. I wouldn't sell him for the sake of trying to get a player from a different team though. So if it's like sell Saka to put Enzo Fernandez in, I wouldn't be doing that at the moment. If it's to sell Saka to Declan Rice, excuse me, that then enables you 4.5 million midfielder to Enzo Fernandez, yeah, be my guess. It's not as straightforward as just sell him, is it? If you're selling him for, say, a Rice, you put in 3 million in the bank. If you're selling him for Cole Palmer, my honest answer is at this moment, I wouldn't do it. Take a viewpoint of what's happening. Cole Palmer, as far as we're aware, he's not 100% clear of his injury. Now, until Liam Rosenior tells me something different on that, or I see something absolutely explosive from Cole Palmer where it's like, he's got to go in, then I've no interest. When was the last time you were truly impressed by Cole Palmer? I mean, it's a serious question. I'm not trying to be critical of the player. I'm just asking you to think about it. Club World Cup final, obviously. Semi-final probably as well at that tournament. Premier League. Remember he trolled everyone during those brilliant fixtures that Chelsea had in, I want to say, the sort of February, March period last year. He's not really done anything from a fantasy perspective for a year. Doesn't feel like. Probably since the haul at Tottenham in December, 14 months ago. So if it's Saka to Palmer, not really fussed about doing it. If it's downgrading Saka and moving money, yeah, it's understandable. I think, look, he'll start the majority of games. I think you might find that if he has a rotated and has a rest in the near future, it's more likely to be in the Champions League. He's unquestionably still a key member of Arsenal's team. He was frightening in the first 20 minutes or so last night. And if you sell a player like that, At any point, it will go off. You have to know that. There isn't like a good fixture. This is now the time to sell him. Arsenal don't have bad enough fixtures to even enable what that would be. What's the next truly rough fixture that Arsenal have? I don't see it. I think it's after the March international break. So if you sell a player like that, it's at any point. Don't fear it. I think it's the right play. You're looking at combinations. Can I have Rice and Enzo Fernandez rather than Saka and 4.5? It's more to it than just selling him. Eros says, what are your top 5 midfielders to own at the moment? So for me would be Enzo Fernandez, Declan Rice, Morgan Rogers, Bruno Fernandes, we'll get there, and then arguably Harry Wilson. I think with Guimaraes, as I said, he's possibly cuttable for me in 24. So absolutely fine at the moment. Wolves, Villa, it's okay. Particularly the Wolves fixture first, unless I'm spooked. There is a possibility that Fernandes, if he, as I said this on the pod today, if he played tomorrow and then played against Manchester City, I'd be wondering with the Champions League afterwards and then weekend fixture against Villa and then Champions League the midweek afterwards and then Liverpool, I'd be wondering if Guimaraes would get a break at Wolves, and it could even be that I cut him next week. That's a possibility. So yeah, try and avoid early transfers at the moment. But yeah, generally speaking, if I was on wildcard, I'll put a draft together. Me and David will do the weekend the next Friday, and I'll do a draft for that. But I think at this moment, Enzo Fernandez would definitely go in. Declan Rice would definitely go in. I think Morgan Rogers would go in. I think I'd probably take the view of, right, I'm on wildcard, stick Bruno Fernandes in. It could maybe be that because I own Guimaraes and got value in him, I'd leave Guimaraes in to set to go to Fernandes is a possibility. And for me, I'd keep older Harry Wilson at the moment as the 5th one, I think. But then fixtures aren't brilliant for him. The Valens Rex says, hi James, what defensive moves would you look to make in the next few weeks? I have Gabriel Timber, Chow, Esteve and Vandenberg. We'll hold Chow this week, considering Chalobah. Anyone else, please and thank you. So, also depends on the rest of your squad a little bit in terms of how much do you need to use it. So, do you want to end up in a position where you've got, say, Esteve and, say, Reynildo from Sunderland? Does that feel like a little bit too weak in case, say, one of the Arsenal guys gets rotated or rested or has an injury problem? Chalobah is the one that I'm obviously watching really closely. I also think once I get back to game week 24, I think Crystal Palace assets will come back on radar. I'd keep Daniel Munoz in your thoughts at the moment, even though he's obviously injured. I mentioned him on the podcast today. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. Not really looking beyond that. Got the double Arsenal set. Next 2 Newcastle's fine. And in 24, Alderetti's got a really good fixture as well at home to Burnley. So I can use that. Not in any duress at the moment to particularly get things sorted. So it's only really Chalobah and probably Crystal Palace in a couple of weeks that's of any interest to me at this moment in time. Wee Man Bruno says, afternoon, halfway through the game week pod and have 2 Brentford, Sade, 4th mid and Vandenberg, 5th defender. Who should I get rid of first? Think Reynildo or Enzo. Any other suggestions? Yep. Both very reasonable options. Sunderland sit top of my ticker over the next 3, so if you have to use him, is fine. I'm fairly sure that it will come back in for Dennis Serkin. I probably wouldn't want to be setting it to play him immediately against Crystal Palace. But I'm going to guess that you're probably not just saying like Vandenberg's 5th defender. So yeah, Reynildo, absolutely fine. I'd said on the podcast today that even though I've got Alderetti, if I was adding another cheaper one, I'd just go to Reynildo at the minute, actually, rather than, I don't want to Sunderland. It's fine. Goodmanson, I think, is okay with Leeds as well, but I think the short and medium term fixtures are better for Sunderland from the 2, personally. And Enzo, yeah, he's right on radar. Might be the one for me, mate. Sade, I would probably cut, yeah. I mean, I've been discussing the possibility of binning off Thiago, right? It's more that I know I want to go back. Sade, I think, is cuttable. Next up is Gazza's Flute says, hi James, need to make a goalkeeper transfer as Ramsdale gamble didn't pay off and only got Dubravka. Do you think Sanchez is the best option till 30-31 period? In essence, yes. But the Verbruggen rotation with Dubravka still works absolutely fine if you need to make a bit of saving of money. I just would have a consciousness at the moment of don't rush, i.e. don't do it now. Just see how you feel about Sanchez after the Arsenal game next week. Just in case if he's asked to do anything different. We spoke about it a little bit today about Penders and his really high positioning for Strasbourg and whether this was maybe going to be suitable for Sanchez. Me and Gary mentioned it on Wednesday's podcast, the fan view as well. So don't run in now. Don't let it be a value thing. If you feel comfortable on Sanchez this time next week, then yeah, be my guest. That's fine. He's not out of the running for me either, mate. Also says, Mikey Moore starting to hit form with us at Rangers. Is there a possibility of another season-long loan if we can secure group stage Champions League football by winning the Scottish Premier League? I have wondered with a few people for Tottenham at the moment if they might get recalled. I don't think he's one of them. I think Mikey is young enough, because we're a bit fucked now. I think Mikey is young enough that they really want to focus on his progression. And now, as you've said, he's starting to have a better time of it with Rangers. I mean, scoring a goal in the Old Firm will do absolutely wonders for him, whether Kasper Schmeichel should have saved it or not. I would think he's probably not ready to play for us regularly next year yet, would be my take. And I'd rather focus on his development now that he's regularly playing men's football, even if it meant he's out on loan for the next couple of years, so that when he's ready to be in the squad, he's legitimately really competing for a starting place. That's what I think would be the best thing for Mikey. Now, if we end up in something like the Conference League, so this is where you have to factor in Tottenham's own stuff. If Tottenham ended up in, say, the Conference League next year, there's a case to say I would want him to be with Tottenham, and he would play the majority of games in that competition, for example, would be really good experience for him. So I don't think it's just about what Rangers do. It's also about, say, what Tottenham do, for what it's worth. I doubt at this stage we're going to finish top half, by the way. I don't think Champions League football wouldn't be a must from it. Ultimately, Europa League's fine, if that's what it's to be for Mikey. And I don't think it even necessarily needs to be European football that he's exposed to, by the way. So if at the end of the season, Tottenham want him to stay at Rangers for another year, if Mikey wants to stay for another year, it sounds like he's quite enjoying it up there, and your people want him to stay, then I think there's every chance, yes, he possibly would do another year. But ultimately, it will come down to what Tottenham's circumstances are for next year. If Tottenham aren't in European football at all, then there's every chance, very strongly, it will go back out on loan. But it might also be dependent on what competition we're in. Also, what Tottenham tend to do is they tend to change players' experiences. So, for example, we've just had Yang Min Hyuk's been taken out of Portsmouth and put on loan at Coventry. And it might be that they go, right, you've had a taste of Scottish football and an experience of playing for a huge football club. Now we want to see you play regularly in the Championship. So it might not even be like a Rangers choice. That might be what the football club wants for him in terms of his development. Because it is then, let's be realistic, it is then a jump from playing in the Scottish Premier League to come back to playing the English Premier League. And I would suggest that the quality level of the league is stronger in the Championship. That's not saying Championship teams are stronger than Rangers. I'm talking about the players that he's playing against. So it might be, therefore, that Tottenham take him out of that situation. Matt Bryant says, hey, James, if you don't have Rice already, would you move Cunha to him or Enzo this week? Have a good weekend, mate. I think priority for me would have been Rice still. I think that was something a couple of weeks ago I just felt I had to get on with it and get it done and not look at all Arsenal playing Villa and Liverpool in a couple of weeks and stuff like that. When I put him in, I mean, Arsenal's fixtures weren't outstanding over the Christmas period. So I think my priority would still be Declan Rice, because I think it's extremely unlikely that there'll be an alternative to Declan Rice at the same value from within the Arsenal squad. But there are scenarios here where Enzo's not the right Chelsea choice. It might be Esteval, it might be Neto, it might be Garnacho, it might be more than one of them, it might be none of them. What we've seen so far this season would suggest to me that Enzo Fernandez is the right choice. I mentioned on Monday's podcast about adaptation, understanding that the game's changed. But not only has the game changed, the league has changed. And these eights, if you will, have become way more desirable this year. And I think people have got a few of them on large, I think actually probably doing a bit better at the moment, rather than still being, I want the touchline winger and the kind of the third forward and stuff like that. So it's likely, I think, to be Enzo Fernandez, but it might not be. And you might just find, Matt, that if you go Enzo, this is a reality. If you go Enzo, you ain't coming back off. What's the chances that you go Enzo Fernandez and then you hit game week 24 and it's like, fucking wish I'd gone Neto? Are you going to go Enzo Fernandez to Neto? No. Now, could you add Neto to him? Yes, possibly. But then what about the period from 28 onwards? You want some serious squad depth, or you'll want some free transfers in play. And you may not want to get rid of them because they may still have a fixture in game week 31, subject to how they do against Arsenal in the Carabao semi-final. So I would say Declan Rice first, because that's definitive one. Enzo Fernandez is probably the guy, but might not be it. Rishilakani says, hi James, I have both Emi Martinez and Hincapié in my FPL teams. Feel quite unlucky they both got subbed off pre-60. Would you keep or sell? If so, to whom? Depends on the prognosis. I've seen obviously Emi Martinez isn't going to play tomorrow. That shouldn't come as any surprise at all. But with him, he does tend to miss a half or a game and then return. I think Villa have some upcoming fixtures. I think unless he's ruled out of game week 22, I would stick with him at the moment. Hincapié is going to become a problem with a couple of caveats to that. One, we're still not sure on the exact prognosis of Calafiori and when he's back. And I thought Miles Lewis-Skelly really struggled actually when he came on yesterday. So Hincapié, if he's all right, will get favouritism. It depends on his injury status. Now, if Calafiori's still out for a while and Hincapié's all right to play game week 22, I wouldn't rush it. That said, if it's the door that opens for you to get Gabriel, please take it and do it. So there is a couple of factors that matter. The most important word here is in terms of information. What I would add is you definitely would not buy Hincapié at this stage. And as advised on the podcast today, I wouldn't buy Emi Martinez either. Patrick Wolf says, Lafay's poor Panenka reminded me of what I think might be the most audacious one. Held a Postiga versus England Euro 2004. Keeper dived, got up and ball still hadn't gone in. Any others come to mind? I remember a Dwight York one like that. I want to say last day of the season, 97-98 for Aston Villa against Arsenal. And Arsenal had a bit of a rotated team and they'd already won the league. From memory, that felt like a real kind of a bobbler, if you will. That was a really kind of almost under-hit Panenka a little bit. Uros Milicevic says, what can FPL managers expect from Chelsea boss Liam Rosenior? Which players might become valuable assets? Difficult to answer. As said, I've listed a number of midfielders there. Like, for example, with the Sanchez situation I've spoken about, with Chalobah, I have a small suspicion that he probably will play the most, but it might be that he wants to go with players that he deems more appropriate on the ball is a possibility. I think of their fit defenders, he's the outstanding one, but he might look at that slightly differently. There's a possibility. I think we'll get a lot of answers from that Arsenal game next week. I think Delap and João Pedro are both worth monitoring very seriously. If one has a clear favouritism, because the fixtures are absolutely fantastic. So essentially, the majority of that squad is on trial for FPL managers. And I wonder if there'll be enough in it for much of 22-23 to make it worthwhile. Like I've said to Matt about, I think what I've advised with Matt in terms of Rice versus Enzo, I think is right. Doesn't feel quite as clear for me on, say, Enzo versus Rodgers. I don't think. And that's primarily because of Villa going to Newcastle in 23. I do think Chelsea's two are significantly better than Aston Villa's next two. And then Chelsea's fixtures afterwards are definitively better. But if I come to a conclusion next week, but I'm not sure on Enzo, I will go Rodgers. I will go Rodgers, and I'll come back for the Chelsea player in 24. So I would say at the moment, the majority of that squad is something that potentially could be good. Fixtures, not just the Premier League ones, though. The biggest games are in the Cups in terms of the tougher ones. And I really think, particularly for Palmer and James, that needs factoring in quite a bit. In terms of what to expect from them, quite a bit of an aggressive man-to-man press. Most commonly, I think he'll go very brave against Arsenal next week. He'll want to show what he is, even if it means they get beat. As said, you can expect potentially high positioning from a goalkeeper, almost to help with build-up. Very split centre-backs. Potentially one staying central, one full-back inverting, one pushing on really high and wide. He's not a one-system man. So you may get that he shoves different formations. So we shouldn't, although we'll get a lot of answers from the Arsenal game, I don't think we should necessarily think, he's gone a back three against Arsenal. This is what this will be. Like, it might be something different against Brentford afterwards. That is also a possibility. So open-minded about it. I'm very intrigued. I think he's going to be a really good addition to the league. Matt says, as it's FA Cup weekend, as a Wednesday fan, Waddle's free kick in the 1993 semi is one of my favourite goals of all time. I always struggled to decide if his or Gazza's in 91 was better. Thoughts? Are you fucking smoking something, Matt? Go back and listen to the commentaries of the two goals. Just go and listen to the commentaries. Listen to what the neutral says about them. Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say. That is schoolboy's own stuff. That is one of the finest free kicks this stadium has ever seen. It's Gazza's, mate. It's absurd. That's not close. Sorry. I get it from your Wednesday perspective in, I guess, the biggest game in your rivalry with Sheffield United. Then, yeah, you're going to love it. And it was a great free kick. It's not Gazza's, mate. That's not close. Alex Tremb asked him, who's on the pod on Monday. It says, afternoon, James. If any FA Cup games are postponed this weekend due to adverse weather, when would they likely be rearranged? And is there any potential impact on Premier League fixtures? Very unlikely and obviously speculative. It does look like a lot of people have put work in to make sure that games are going on. I'm not aware of anything at threat at the moment. Let's take a hypothetical scenario for you. Let's say, fucking hell, it gets really bad at Charlton. Okay, this is kind of like a worst case scenario one. Let's say Charlton and Chelsea is postponed. What happens? Well, major problem. And I would say to you that on that circumstance, there is a possibility you would lose a Premier League fixture. So when people scroll, where's my replays? There's nowhere for your replays. It's Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final. That's why I use this example. So Chelsea have the cup game at Charlton, midweek against Arsenal, Premier League Brentford, Champions League Paphos. Champions League games cannot get moved. Crystal Palace away, Napoli away, West Ham at home, Arsenal second leg, Wolves away, Leeds at home, round 4 of the cup. There isn't anywhere. And that last one's a midweek set of fixtures as well. So game week 25 when Chelsea host Leeds. Midweek fixture. There isn't anywhere for it to go. So I would say to you, yeah, under that sort of circumstance, there is a chance. I would say only for if it impacts a team that is in a Carabao Cup semi-final. There is every chance that a fixture will go. Every chance, as in a Premier League fixture. So, games at play this weekend. Arsenal at Portsmouth. I think we're expecting that to be okay. We'd expect Chelsea at Charlton to be okay. Manchester City at home to Exeter will be okay. Newcastle at home to Bournemouth will be okay. So, don't anticipate this being a problem. If you had a hypothetical one where, let's say, Tottenham Villa, bad example, that was postponed, and obviously Tottenham and Villa have got European commitments, then I would imagine that game would be played in the midweek, around about game week. I'll just check my game. It's 22, 3, 4. Sorry, that Leeds fixture for Chelsea is 26, isn't it? Around game week 24. So if a game that was postponed from the FA Cup this weekend involved another team that was in Europe, so say Tottenham and Aston Villa, under that sort of circumstance, I think the game would be played in the midweek of game week 24. They're both completely free in that midweek. That's where it'd go. This is only likely to be an occurrence problem for Premier League fixtures throughout January if there's a postponement involving one of the 4 Carabao Cup semi-finals. Otherwise, that midweek in Game Week 24 is completely free to play the third round of Cup game. It would be no different, essentially, to playing the third round replay and then the fourth round happening afterwards. Wee Man Bruno says, sorry, in regards to Vandenberg to Reinildo, Sunderland defender if playing this week, or Sade to Enzo, I only have one free transfer. Which do I do first? Thanks as always. Well, how desperately do you need Vandenberg to be playing? Because you said full 4/5 defender, so I'm not quite sure I understand how important that is to you. Sade, I think, is probably binnable personally. I think timing on that is probably right. But you can wait on it. If you want to, I'll have Sade for Chelsea away, Forest at home, come back to it. I think that's fine. So if your priority is minutes play, we'll keep Sade and buy the defender first, mate. Mr. John B, how about Valverde's free kick last night? Absolute rocket. I've got to apologise, mate, and say I haven't seen it. So cannot comment on it. I heard about it, but I have not seen it. And John says, I think this is the last one, unless anyone wants to throw any more in. Having kebabs for dinner. What's your exact kebab order? I will get it tonight. Depends how many I've had to drink, mate. Is ultimately the answer on that one. If I've had a lot to drink, it might just be, yeah, lamb doner. Give me a lamb doner, mate. I'm a chicken shish kind of guy quite often if I've not had too much to drink. So a bit kofta kebab goes down well as well. Have a mixture of that. So I've mix shish probably, I'd say. Have a mixed shish and work away from there, mate. You won't be hungry afterwards. Okay, that's it, I think. No more questions, all covered. Thanks as always for your support. Enjoy the relaxation of the FA Cup weekend. If your team's playing, I wish you the very best of luck. If your team's not playing, I still wish you to have a great weekend. Plenty of content next week. So Game Week Review Pod, there isn't one. The main podcast will be on Thursday next week. We're going to do a chip strategy podcast after the Carabao Cup semis. That will be looking at chip strategy ideas for the rest of the season once we've got all the information from the Cup games and also in terms of potential injuries that might be helpful for further discussion on Thursday. Alex is joining me on the Fan View to discuss Manchester United on Monday. Wolves Newcastle with Bradley and Sai on COTC Tuesday. Us James Wednesday. Weekender returns with David on Friday. Plenty more on Patreon as well. Q&A Monday. James Johnson's doing a quiz on Tuesday. We've got Tottenham Wednesday. Money in Football returns Thursday. Differential show on Friday. Advanced tier content to be confirmed, but there'll be plenty of that as well. Thank you all for your support. Have a great weekend. For the benefit of those on the audio, cue music plays, man child.